The prisoner and the beast. The room was cold, dark, silent. A dim red light blinked from the ceiling, barely enough to see the walls. Chains rattled softly every time someone moved. Nara sat in the corner, her knees pulled to her chest. Her arms were thin, her clothes torn. She had stopped crying 3 days ago. Her throat was dry. Her eyes burned. But the fear was still there. She looked across the cell. There, in the shadows, sat it. The monster. Huge, covered in dark gray. Skin, muscles like stone. Sharp claws. Yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. Its breathing was deep and heavy. It had no name, at least none the guards used. They just called it the Beast. And Nara was chained to it. A thick metal chain linked her ankle to the monster's wrist. 10 feet of chain, just enough to stay apart, not enough to run. Why did they do this? What were they waiting for? Nara didn't know. The beast didn't speak. It never attacked her. It just stared. Sometimes it growled. Sometimes it moved closer, and Nara would press herself against the wall, shaking, but it never hurt her. Not yet. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed outside. The metal door opened with a loud hiss. Nara flinched and covered her face. 2 guards entered. Tall, armored, with alien weapons strapped to their arms. Behind them, another figure was dragged in. A man. He was bleeding. Limp. His clothes were torn and his face was bruised. His hands were tied behind his back. A human. Nara blinked in shock. She had never seen a human before. Only heard stories. Some called them dangerous. Others called them weak. She didn't know what to believe. The guards dropped the man on the ground like garbage. He'll last 2 days. One of them laughed. Or maybe the beast will kill him first. The other replied. They left, locking the door behind them. Silence returned. The beast didn't move. Nara stared at the human. He groaned and rolled onto his side, his face half in shadow. His eyes opened slowly. He looked around. Then, he looked at the beast. Then at Nara. And then, he smiled. Great, he said, his voice rough. Roommates. Nara didn't reply. She was too shocked to speak. The beast growled, low and warning, but the human didn't flinch. He sat up slowly, even though it clearly hurt. He leaned against the wall and let out a breath. Name's Cole, he said. You? Nara said nothing. Cole didn't mind. He looked at the chain between her and the beast. That's a lovely setup, he said, very cozy. Still no answer. After a long pause, Nara finally whispered, You're not afraid? Cole turned his head and looked straight at her. No, he said calmly. Should I be? She pointed at the beast. It killed 3 prisoners before me. Cole raised an eyebrow. But not you, Nara shook her head. Huh, he said. Interesting. The beast growled again. Cole looked at it, serious this time. I'm not here to fight you, big guy, he said. Just trying to survive. The beast said nothing, but it didn't attack either. Time passed. Nara watched Cole. He was different, not like the other prisoners. They all screamed, begged. Some even tried to escape and were shot. But Cole was quiet. He was thinking, studying the room, watching the guards through the small window, counting the steps, listening. He didn't look like a soldier, but he didn't act like a prisoner either. Nara couldn't stop watching him. She hadn't felt anything in days, just fear and pain. But now, there was something else. Curiosity. Hope. Maybe he was crazy. Or maybe, just maybe, he was planning something. Cole leaned his head back and closed his eyes. Don't worry, he whispered. They made a mistake putting me here. Nara frowned. What mistake? He opened one eye and smiled again. They think I'm trapped with them, he said softly. But really, He looked at the beast, then at the chains, then at the ceiling camera. They're trapped with me. The human doesn't break. The lights never turned off in the prison. There was no day, no night, only cold silence and blinking red light. Cole didn't sleep much. He sat with his back to the wall, his eyes half closed but never resting. His muscles hurt. His skin was still bleeding from where the guards had beaten him. But he didn't complain. He didn't even groan. Nara watched him from across the room. She couldn't understand him. He had no weapon, no armor, no allies. He was in the worst place in the galaxy, chained in a torture prison beside a monster. And yet, he was calm, too calm. She had seen fear in every other prisoner, terror, screaming, crying. But this human, he just watched everything. Cole's eyes moved like a soldier. He counted the steps of the guards outside the door. He watched, the camera above them. He timed the feeding hours. He looked at small details, cracks in the wall, screws on the floor, even the sound the pipes made. He wasn't afraid. He was preparing. Nara wanted to ask questions, but something held her back. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the way the beast kept watching too, not her, but him. Cole. The human had said nothing to the beast since yesterday. He didn't speak unless it was important. But there was something in his silence. Something strong. A presence. When Cole moved, the beast's eyes followed. When Cole stood up to stretch his legs, the beast sat taller too. It didn't feel like prisoner and monster anymore. It felt like something else. Something dangerous. On the third day, the door opened again. 2 guards came in. They pointed at Nara. "Test subject, move." She backed away quickly, shaking her head. "No, please." One of the guards raised his weapon, but Cole stood up. "No," he said clearly. "Take me." The guards laughed. "You want pain, human?" "I want to trade," Cole said. "She's weak. I'm not. Take me instead." The guards looked at each other, then at the beast. The monster growled low, sensing danger. One of the guards shrugged. "Fine." They grabbed Cole and dragged him out. As the door slammed shut, Nara felt something strange in her chest. She didn't even know him. But still, she felt like something important had just been taken away. The torture room was colder than the cell. Metal. Tools lined the walls. The guards tied Cole to a heavy chair. A strange alien doctor stood nearby, tall with long hands and sharp silver eyes. "You are human," the doctor said. "We have studied your kind before. Very emotional, very weak." Cole said nothing. The doctor picked up a sharp instrument and began. Hours passed. Back in the cell, Nara sat with her head in her hands. The beast was restless. It growled and pulled, its chain again and again. Something was wrong. The air felt heavier, like it could explode any second. Suddenly, the door hissed open. Cole was thrown back into the cell, bleeding and burned. But he was alive and smiling. Nara crawled closer as the guards left. "You're hurt." "I've been worse," he muttered, sitting up slowly. His hands were shaking, but he forced them still. "Why did you do that?" she whispered. Cole looked up at her. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale, but his voice was calm. "Because you're not the one they want," he said. "You're bait." She froze. "Bait? For what?" "For something bigger," he said. "They're testing reactions, pain levels, fear, bonding patterns." "Bonding?" she repeated. He looked at the beast, then back at her. "They're watching everything," he said. "They want to see if a human can control it." Nara gasped. "The beast?" Cole nodded. "Not just a monster. It's intelligent, trained, maybe even enhanced. It could tear me in half. But it doesn't." He leaned back against the wall. "It's waiting," Nara whispered. "Waiting for what?" Cole closed his eyes. For the right reason to break its chains. Later that night, the beast moved. Slowly, carefully, It reached toward Cole. Nara tensed. Was it going to attack? But instead, it dropped something in his lap. A metal fragment. Sharp. Thin. Hidden. Cole smiled. He looked at the beast. It blinked slowly. Respect. Nara felt a chill go down her spine. This was no longer a prison cell. This was a war room, and something terrible was coming. The monster's secret. The next day, the cell was quiet again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. Now it was the silence before something begins. Cole sat with his back against the wall, his hands resting near his lap, hiding the sharp metal shard the beast had given him. He had already cut the edge of his chain a little, just enough to know it was possible, not enough to get caught. Nara sat close, still watching him. "You said it's waiting," she whispered. "The beast." Cole gave a slow nod. "But why?" she asked. "Why does it listen to you?" Cole looked up at the beast. It sat in its corner, huge and still. Its chest rose and fell slowly. But its eyes, they were watching. Not wild, not empty. Just quiet. Cole turned back to Nara. "Because it knows I'm not here to die." She frowned. "You're a prisoner." "I was caught," he corrected. "That's not the same thing." Nara was silent for a while. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "My people call it Korak." Cole raised an eyebrow. "It's not a mindless creature. It was bred during the Syndicate Wars, a living weapon, but it disobeyed orders. It spared civilians, protected children. They called it defective." "Defective?" Cole asked. "Because it had a soul?" Nara nodded. "So they locked it up and started using it for experiments." Cole looked at Korak. "So this place is more than a prison." "It's a lab," Nara said. "A hidden one. They test what breaks first, body, mind, or heart." "And you?" Cole asked softly. "What are you doing here?" Nara looked away. "I'm a rebel's daughter," she whispered. "My father attacked their supply fleets. When they couldn't catch him, they took me." Cole was quiet. Then he said, "So we're not prisoners. We're examples." Later, Cole stood and slowly approached Korak. The chain between them rattled. The beast didn't move. Cole lifted his hand, slowly, carefully. Palm open. He stopped 2 feet away and said in a low voice, "I know what they did to you." The beast's eyes narrowed. "You were built to kill, trained to obey. But you stopped obeying. And that scared them." Korak growled, but not in anger. It was something else. Pain. Cole took a small step closer. "I've seen others like you," he said. "Not your kind, but your story. Soldiers made for war, then thrown away when they start thinking for themselves." He paused. "I wasn't a hero back then, just a survivor. But I remember what happened to those who tried to protect others." The beast stared at him, and then, slowly, it reached out one clawed finger and tapped Cole's chest. Right over his heart. Then it made a motion. Tap, pointed at Cole. Tap, pointed at itself. Nara whispered, "It's saying you're the same." Cole nodded. "I thought so." That night, Cole had a dream. He was standing in fire, not screaming, just watching. It all burned. Behind him, soldiers were dying. Explosions shook the ground. A woman's voice was calling his name, but he couldn't turn around. He was holding a button in his hand, and if he pressed it, everything would end. He woke up suddenly, breathing hard. Nara was staring at him from across the room. "You were talking in your sleep," she said. Cole wiped sweat from his forehead. "I do that sometimes." "What did you mean when you said no more bombs?" He didn't answer, not right away. Then he said quietly, "I used to build them." Nara blinked. "You're an engineer?" "I was," he said. "Then they turned me into a weapon." The next day a new guard came. This one was different. He didn't shout, he didn't laugh. He walked straight up to the cell window and looked directly at Cole. "You," he said. "The commander wants to speak with you." Cole narrowed his eyes. "Since when do you ask prisoners?" The guard smirked. "You're not just a prisoner, are you?" Cole stood. "Lead the way." As they walked, Nara pressed her face against the bars. She watched him disappear into the hallway again. Beside her, Korak growled. She turned to the beast. "I think he's more dangerous than you," she said softly. The beast blinked. Then, for the first time ever, it nodded. Inside the command chamber, bright light shone down on Cole. The commander sat behind a glass wall. Tall, cold eyes, wearing a uniform with no name. "You're calm," he said. Cole said nothing. The commander continued. "We know what you are. Cole Marin, Human Federation demolitions expert. 142 confirmed strikes. Disappeared after the Marrow uprising." "I didn't disappear," Cole said. "I walked away." "Your kind doesn't just walk away," the commander replied. "They burn things." Cole smiled coldly. "Maybe I still will." Back in the cell, Nara looked at the wall. There were scratch marks there. Not random. Letters. Words. She leaned closer. They weren't in her language, but she recognized a few. Project Korak. Emotional sync trials. Hybrid control system. She looked at the beast. "Korak," she whispered. "They're not just testing you." She turned to the door. "They're trying to use you." She felt her hand shake. But for what? Cole returned later, bruised but calm. He walked to his spot and sat down. Nara asked, "What did they want?" He looked at her, then at the camera in the ceiling. "They wanted to know what I'm planning," she hesitated. "And are you?" He smiled. "I always am." Humans fight differently. Pain was not the enemy. Pain was a signal, a message. That's what Cole had learned long ago, back when he was still a soldier, not just a survivor. When the guards dragged him back to the cell again, his face was bleeding. One eye swollen shut, ribs cracked, skin burned by some kind of alien electricity, and yet, he smiled. Not for them, for himself, because the pain told him something. They were afraid. Nara rushed to his side as the guards left. "You need help," she whispered. Cole coughed and sat up slowly, wiping blood from his chin. "I need 5 more days," he said calmly. She blinked. "What?" Cole looked at the wall, then at the metal shard still hidden under a loose stone. 5 more days, he repeated. Then the shift changes. New guards. Less patrol. I've been counting the schedules. You're doing this while being tortured?" she asked. He smiled weakly. "That's when you learn the most. Pain makes them lazy. They think you're not watching." Nara was silent. She had seen warriors before. Brave men and women. Her father was a rebel general. Her mother died in a drone strike. But this was different. Cole wasn't just brave. He was dangerous. That night, while the red light blinked above them, Nara finally asked the question burning in her chest. "Why are you helping me?" Cole didn't open his eyes. He was resting, barely breathing, but still alert. "You're not weak," he said softly. "But they treat you like you are. I hate that." "That's not a reason," she said. Cole opened one eye. "You remind me of someone," he said, "someone I couldn't save." Nara wanted to ask more, but something stopped her. The next day, things changed. A new group of guards entered. They were nervous, whispering. Nara noticed it first, then Cole. "What's going on?" she asked. Cole sat up straighter. Something happened. One of the guards looked at Korak with fear in his eyes. "Why are they scared of him now?" Nara whispered. Cole didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because last night while we were sleeping, he did something." Korak stared at the ceiling, still, calm, but his claws were wet, with blood. In the upper floors of the facility, a doctor was found dead. Security footage showed nothing. The cameras went dark for 3 minutes. Only one thing was missing from the Lab, a data crystal, and only one being had moved during that blackout. Not a human, not a guard, but the beast. Back in the cell, Cole whispered to Korak when the guards were gone. "What did you bring me?" Korak reached into the corner under a loose stone and placed a small glowing chip in Cole's hand. Cole inserted it into a slot on his wrist device, a tiny hidden one he had kept even after capture. The screen lit up. Data streamed through. Test. Logs, blueprints, guard codes, and something more. Something darker. A project file. Operation Control. Human monster neural link prototype. Cole's hands clenched. "They weren't just testing us," he said. "They were trying to merge us." Nara looked horrified. "Merge how?" "Turn us into weapons," Cole said. "Biological drones, perfect killers, mind-controlled monsters." He looked at her, his eyes cold now. "And I think they already did it once." She shook her head. "That's impossible." "Is it?" he said quietly. "Then where's Prototype Zero?" Later, while pretending to sleep, Cole worked. He carved at the chain link every time the camera turned. 12 seconds. Every cycle. That's all he needed. The shard was nearly dull now, but he didn't stop. Nara watched silently. "Why now?" she asked. "Why not wait for rescue?" Cole gave a dry laugh. "No one's coming. I made sure of that." "What do you mean?" "I erased my ID from the Federation system before I let them catch me," he said. "They think I'm dead, because I wanted them to." Nara stared. "So this was your plan?" He looked her dead in the eyes. "I came here on purpose." That night the lights flickered again, but only for a moment. And in that moment, Korak moved, so fast Nara barely saw it. He stood, grabbed Cole's chain with both hands, and snapped it in half. No alarm, no warning. Cole stood slowly, rubbing his freed wrist. Nara stared in shock. "You're free." He walked to the wall, placed a device behind the vent, and said, "Not yet, but we're getting there." Somewhere in the control room, the commander watched the screen. He leaned forward, smiling. "They've started." Behind him, in a large sealed tank, something moved. Something almost human, but not quite. Its eyes glowed red, and its chains were melting. The chains are just metal. The cell was no longer just a prison. It had become a battlefield in disguise, and Cole wasn't a prisoner anymore. He was a weapon, waiting. His chain was broken, but he hadn't left. Not yet, because he knew. Timing was everything. Korak sat near the wall now, eyes closed, almost meditating. Nara was pacing. Her ankle chain was still locked, but she knew. Not for long. "Why aren't we moving?" she asked. "You're free. We can fight, escape." Cole shook his head. "No, not yet. If we move too soon, we die alone." He pointed up. "They're watching. Not just with cameras, with minds." Nara frowned. "What do you mean?" Cole took a deep breath and said the words like poison in his mouth. "Telepathic surveillance, mental scanners, bio-thought nets. They built them during the AI uprisings. I studied them. Broke some too." She stared at him. "So they can hear us think?" "If we don't shield our minds, yes." He pulled out a piece of cloth, wrapped in tinfoil-like material. Reinforced scrap from the vent panels, enough to block thoughts for 30 seconds. 30 seconds isn't enough to escape. Cole looked at her, eyes sharp. 30 seconds is enough to kill the power. That night, something changed in the air. It smelled like electricity, like blood and smoke, waiting to happen. Cole turned to Nara and handed her a sharp-edged tool. "This is for your chain," he said. "You're going to break it yourself." She held it in shaking hands. "But I can't." "Yes," Cole said firmly. "You can. Because once it's gone, you'll stop thinking like a prisoner." Nara knelt beside her ankle, breathing hard. She remembered her father's voice. Chains are only metal. Fear is what keeps them strong. She struck once. Twice. On the third hit, the chain cracked. Her ankle was free. She looked up at Cole, and for the first time since she arrived in the prison, she didn't feel weak. She felt dangerous. In the main corridor, 2 guards stood, on duty. One yawned. The other scrolled through data on his wristpad. "Level 3 subjects are getting restless," he said. "Let them. The neural inhibitors will kick in," the first replied. "They always do." He didn't notice the soft click in the wall vent behind him, didn't see the small red dot blink, didn't hear the beast, 10 meters away, slowly flexing its claws. Cole waited for the moment. The shift change. The 3-second camera reset. The one guard with the limp who always walks slower. It all lined up. Perfectly. He leaned forward. Nara. Korak. Now. The lights went out. Instant. Black. Emergency sirens tried to activate, but they didn't, because Cole had fried the backup system with a power feedback bomb hidden in the vent, and for 27 seconds, there was no control. The door to their cell slid open with a hiss. Cole moved first. Silent. Smooth. He took down the first guard with a pipe to the head. Korak grabbed the second and slammed him into the wall so hard the metal cracked. Nara followed, heart racing. They were outside the cell now, and nothing would ever be the same. Sirens began to howl again. Emergency lights blinked red. Cole sprinted down the hallway, memory guiding him. Left, down, hatch, lab door. They reached the main research wing. Nara gasped. Hundreds of tanks, each one filled with something alive. Not human, not beast, something in between. "Experiments," she whispered. "They made more, like Korak." Cole stared at a screen flashing the words, "Prototype 0, active suddenly." A voice echoed through the speakers. Cold, calm. "You are too late, Cole Marin," the commander's voice. Cole looked up. "You wanted to break us," the voice said, "but we have already evolved beyond fear, beyond pain. And now, you'll witness what a perfected hybrid looks like." One of the tanks burst open. Water spilled and something stepped out. It looked human, but taller, muscles perfect, skin pale and marked with black veins. Its eyes glowed red, and on its chest was the same military mark Cole had once worn. "Subject 0, Cole muttered. "It's me." Nara gasped. "What?" "They cloned me," Cole whispered. "Used my DNA, my mind, and something else." He turned to Korak. From him, Subject 0 took a step forward. It smiled and spoke. "Hello, Father." Nara stepped back in shock. Korak growled, claws ready. Cole raised his weapon. "I came here to destroy the project," he said. "But now," he looked at Subject 0. "I'm going to destroy you. Break the cell. Break the system." The entire facility shook. Alarms screamed like dying animals. Red lights flashed across the walls, painting everything in blood. Doors slammed. Weapons clicked. Footsteps thundered across metal floors. And in the middle of it all, Cole, Nara, and Korak ran straight into the fire. They didn't speak. There was no time. Cole led the way, moving fast but with purpose. Every hallway he turned, every step he took, had been planned. He had mapped the entire facility in his mind over the past 10 days. Every camera, every sensor, every weak point. Behind him, Korak moved like a shadow, silent, focused. The beast no longer growled. It no longer hesitated. It was fighting, not for freedom, but for revenge. And Nara. She was no longer a frightened girl. She had no armor, no blaster, no training, but she had fire. In her hands she held a stolen stun stick. In her eyes, she carried the fury of every prisoner who had screamed in the dark and never escaped. They passed the cryopods, each one full of prisoners, sleeping, sedated, forgotten. Nara stopped. "We can't leave them," Cole spun. "Then wake them, do what you can." She nodded, already pulling wires and cracking the panel open. Cole turned to Korak. "I need time. Hold the corridor." The beast walked forward, slowly, and stood in front of the hallway, waiting, like a wall of death. From the other side of the facility, the monster clone known as Subject Zero marched toward them. It wasn't in a hurry. It didn't need to be. Around it, armed drones floated like flies. Its eyes scanned heat, sound, movement. It spoke to the system as it walked. Terminate all test subjects except Cole Marin. Do not engage Korak unless I give the order. The system replied. Orders confirmed. Subject Zero smiled. In the lab wing, Cole's hands moved quickly across a console. Lines of alien code, security overrides, neural inhibitors. He inserted Korak's stolen data crystal. The system sparked, screamed, and opened, one by one. Cells began to unlock, all across. The prison doors slid open. Prisoners stepped into the halls, confused, afraid, and until they saw the alarms. The chaos. And then they realized the time to run had come. In the cryopod chamber, Nara managed to wake 5 prisoners. One collapsed, another screamed, but 3 of them stood, looked around, and understood. She tossed them weapons. You want to survive? She asked. They nodded. Then follow me. Korak fought alone at the end of the hall. Guards came, shouting orders. The beast didn't hesitate. It moved like a storm, slamming one guard into the floor, crushing another's weapon in its bare hands, roaring, loud enough to shake the lights above. Blood sprayed, but Korak didn't stop, because behind him, Cole was still working. And this time, they weren't taking Cole. Subject Zero reached the central hallway and paused. A new voice echoed from the ceiling. Cole's voice. I know you can hear me. Subject Zero looked up. You're not a monster, Cole said. You're just a mirror, a weapon built from stolen flesh and stolen thoughts. But let me tell you something. His voice darkened. I break mirrors. Then everything went dark. Cole had cut the main grid. All lights out. All cameras dead. All weapons offline. For 7 seconds. But those 7 seconds were enough. Cole turned to Nara. The system's blind. We move now. They sprinted toward the elevator shaft, the only way out. But when they got there, they stopped, because Subject Zero was waiting, standing in the open, smiling. No fear, just confidence. You think this is a rescue mission? He said calmly. Cole raised his fists. It's a war. Subject Zero stepped forward. And then, Korak hit him like a meteor. The 2 monsters collided in the middle of the corridor. Claws, fists, roars, bone. Metal bent around them. Walls cracked. Cole didn't wait. He ran past them. Nara, the override panel. She dropped to her knees and began working the elevator controls. Sparks flew. The power was unstable. Behind them, the battle raged. Korak slammed Subject Zero into the ground, but Zero twisted, punched, and pinned him. You are obsolete, Zero said, lifting a clawed fist, but Korak smiled just once, and then he grabbed Zero's arm and exploded. The shockwave threw Nara and Cole back. Fire filled the corridor. Steel bent. Silence followed. Cole pushed himself up, coughing. Where Korak had stood, there was nothing left but smoke and ashes. Nara fell to her knees. He sacrificed himself. Cole stood beside her. No, he said. He won. The elevator door opened. Prisoners from other wings began flooding in, bloody, barefoot, burning with rage. Nara helped them aboard. Cole turned one last time to the hallway, to the smoke, to the ghost of the monster who had once been a weapon, and became a hero. Then he stepped inside. The elevator rose, out of the prison, toward the surface, toward light, toward war. The human changed everything. The elevator rose for 83 seconds. In that time, Cole didn't speak. Neither did Nara, or the half-dozen freed prisoners packed behind them, some holding stolen weapons, some holding only hope, but every single one of them felt the same thing rising in their chests. It wasn't fear, it wasn't anger, it was purpose. Because below them, in the burning dark, a monster had died to give them this moment. And above them, a world that had no idea they were coming. The doors slid open with a hiss. Sunlight hit them like a slap. For the first time in 10 days, They saw the sky. It was pale, polluted, controlled, but it was still free. Or at least, it would be. Cole stepped out first. His uniform was torn, bloodied, burned, but he stood tall because he had one thing no chain, no lab, no weapon ever touched: his will. The facility's surface was massive, part fortress, part factory, part illusion. To the galaxy, it was just a remote research outpost, but now with its systems burning below and alarms screaming through the air, it couldn't hide anymore. Cole raised his hand and pointed. "There," he said. "Communications tower." "If we reach it," Nara began. "We don't just escape," Cole finished. "We expose everything." She nodded. "Let's finish this." But they weren't alone. Far ahead, automated mechs began to activate. Tall machines with twin cannons and human tracking AI. Drones swarmed above them like a steel cloud. And worse, from the smoke behind them, Subject Zero emerged. Still, alive, its synthetic skin torn, half its face burned. Sparks flew from its shoulder, but its eyes still glowed. It wasn't just a clone anymore. It was evolving. "You think this ends with a message?" it said, voice distorted. Cole turned. "I think it ends with a choice," he said. Subject Zero tilted its head. "You could have joined me. Perfect unity. No fear. No pain." "I felt pain," Cole said. "And that's why I'll never become you." "Then you'll die," Zero growled. Cole shook his head. "No," he said. "You will." The ground shook. And behind the rising prisoners and from the broken vent shafts, from damaged freight elevators, from the collapsed walls, they came. Hundreds of former test subjects. Some wounded. Some mutated. All angry. They had escaped the lower levels during the blackout, and now they were ready to fight. Cole didn't give a speech, he didn't need to. He raised his stolen blaster, and everyone followed. The battle was chaos. Mechs fired from the towers. Drones swooped low. Subject Zero charged through bodies like a god. But Cole fought with pure instinct, ducking, shooting, moving like a ghost. Every second he stayed alive was a second closer to the tower. Nara led civilians, dodging fire, guiding them into cover, turning scared prisoners into soldiers. At one point, she screamed Cole's name, saw him nearly taken out by debris. But he stood again, bleeding, smiling, unbroken. Subject Zero finally caught up with him. They met on the final steps to the tower platform. Cole raised his weapon. Zero slapped it away. They fought hand to hand, fists, elbows, blood and bone. It wasn't just strength anymore, it was belief. "You're just a man," Zero hissed, throwing him to the floor. Cole coughed blood and laughed. "That's the part you never understood," he said. He pressed a detonator against Zero's chest. A small blue light blinked. Subject Zero looked down, confused. Then, boom, a core charge, taken from Korak's tank room. Enough to melt steel. Subject Zero vanished in fire. Cole collapsed beside the tower. Nara reached him, eyes full of terror. But he was still breathing. Barely. "You made it," she whispered. He looked up at the sky and smiled. "It's open source," he said, pointing to the console. "Send everything." Nara stood, trembling but strong, and began the upload. Test footage, torture logs, clone documents, names, dates, proof, to every major media channel across the galaxy. Live, the war wasn't over, but the truth was free now, and once the truth is free, tyranny can't survive. Later, when ships arrived, Federation, Rebel, Civilian, they found the place in ruins, and at the center of the wreckage, a broken tower, a dead clone, a shattered facility, and a human sitting in the dirt, covered in blood, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. They asked for his name. He only said one thing: "Tell them, and the beast died a hero. I just lit the fire." She had been chained to a monster for 10 days, but the real monster wasn't Korak. It was the system that built the cage, and the human who walked into hell to break it changed everything.